Hello, my friends. It is time for another O Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, CW, and today we're talking about Bray Wyatt's new character and whether or not this storyline is working. Now, I think when Bray Wyatt came back, I believe it was at Extreme Rules, I don't think I've heard a pop so loud. The man made an impact, and since that pop, I feel like a lot of the luster has been shaved off of not only his character but this story in general. Now, I'm not a WWE writer. I'm not a well, I was going to say I'm not a writer. I am a writer, but I don't write, live TV. I can't think far enough ahead to, book a show, but I can tell you when storytelling is stale or stagnant. And I feel like that's what's happening with Bray Wyatt and this LA Knight storyline. It hasn't progressed at all in the past 4 weeks. I don't understand the beef that these two men have, nor do I understand why every week Bray Wyatt comes out and simply, or not even every week, he didn't show up in SmackDown last week to kind of time this episode. But LA Knight did like a video recap of him getting beat up the past couple of weeks, and there was no like forward momentum to this thing. Now, I understand that there is long form storytelling and, there are things supposed to get paid off, but you have to pay something off to keep fans invested. And LA Knight getting jumped backstage by masked boogeymen or boogie women is not a way to move the story forward, especially when Bray Wyatt has not suited up for a match since he debuted. Now, I don't know what that's about. They could be saving that for, Rumble. Like maybe he's not going to wrestle on, a regular SmackDown or Raw for now. Maybe he's trying to get his legs back underneath him to actually wrestle. I don't know. I don't even really care. But if he's not going to get in the ring and wrestle someone, there needs to be some sort of resolution to something in this storyline, whether it be the reveal of who Uncle Howdy is, if they are going to pull the trigger on Wyatt having another stable. I feel like Alexa Bliss and her character on Raw are getting more and more interesting storytelling through the Bray Wyatt lens than Bray Wyatt himself. Like Alexa Bliss at least is now in the title picture, and she's having kind of these blackouts or blankouts or, whatever you want to call them, where she's, reverting to like this evil side. And she's not necessarily, becoming Lily or anything like that again, but she's definitely turning into something. And we don't know what, but it's still intriguing because every week something new happens, right? Bray Wyatt's symbol flashes. She blanks out during an interview. She puts Bianca Belair in the Sister Abigail pose for way too long, but still, she puts her in that pose as if she's like gonna to hit her with that move. Whatever the case may be, her story is moving forward while Bray's is kind of standing still. And I don't even know if LA Knight is the right guy for this angle because there's no reason why either one of them should be interacting. And the fact that that LA Knight is, an active wrestler and should be wrestling matches and not just getting jumped and doing segments is kind of the issue. Like we know LA Knight's ready to go, right? He can wrestle a match today, tomorrow, whatever. And if Bray is not ready to go, why are we pairing him with someone who can wrestle, right? If you want to do the vignettes and cut up promos for Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy and whoever, that's fine. I don't mind that, and if it's going to tell a long story, fine, and we can just live through the promos. But the moment you bring an active wrestler in, someone got to wrestle. Someone better wrestle somebody. And the fact that no one's wrestling anybody in that angle, and not only that, but we're getting no information as to where this is going. It's not really doing it for me. Now, I know Bray Wyatt is a fantastic wrestler. He's a fantastic, he's a fantastic wrestler. He's a fantastic wrestling actor, and his characters are always engaging. Whether you like them or not, you can't deny that they are unique and engaging and different than everything else that's on the program at the moment. When The Fiend debuted, I still think The Fiend was mismanaged and not handled properly, as many people do. But there were ways to make that work, and they didn't jive. Now, with him being Bray Wyatt, with Bray Wyatt working with Triple H now and having a little bit more creative freedom, I'm hoping this isn't his idea to kind of draw this out so long. Like, there has to be momentum. There has to be a story. There has to be a beginning, middle, and end. And we're still firmly in the beginning of the story. So I don't know if it's clicking right now. Though I'm here for it. I'm waiting for something to happen. I want it to work, right? I want it to work. So in the last 4 minutes, let me give you a very quick overview of how I would have handled The Fiend. And I would love to hear how you guys would in the comments. So I still think The Fiend should have never wrestled. I don't think that character should wrestle. I think the Mr. Rogers-esque Bray Wyatt version in the sweater should have been the wrestler. He should have gone out and wrestled every match. No Fiend wrestling, right? To start. The Fiend should have been like what Uncle Howdy is doing now. He should have been the backstage guy, but not in a spooky, like you never see him fight. You absolutely see him jump people, but it always comes after not just a loss, but a slight on Bray Wyatt. So Bray Wyatt will go out there all happy-go-lucky and weird and wrestle and be strange and be Mr. Rogers and, either win his match or lose his match or whatever. But if someone crossed him in some way, or someone, I don't know, who fit the bill that should have been taken out by The Fiend, someone who represented a facet of Bray's mentality that he no longer wanted to associate with, whether it be McMahon or, Husky Harris, like a big, thick guy or whatever The Fiend deemed to be something that needed to go. Or hell, if someone showed fear, and The Fiend, I believe he had fear on his knuckles. If they showed fear, would entice The Fiend to come out and attack them. Bray Wyatt, that character, the Mr. Rogers character, should have been the one chasing gold and, trying to make himself better by wrestling and getting all that stuff over and putting stuff behind him and being kind of this broken character who is trying to do better, right? Almost in an unhealthy manner, where he's kind of pushing all this fear and pain and anguish down and going out there in this really creepy, like overtly happy way in wrestling, and then just snapping, right? And then The Fiend would come out and do all the damage that he felt inside, right? So I don't think the reason The Fiend failed for me is that he became another gimmick. He became a version of Kane that he didn't need to be. The moment they handed him a belt with his face on it, he lost. That character lost. The Fiend didn't strike me as someone who gave a crap about a belt. And the fact that he had his face on it and it was more vain, it was a vanity belt for a character who was very much like the id of Bray Wyatt, it failed. So they had to do away with that, and they should have leaned heavily on the, like I said, the happy-go-lucky character in the bright lights and all that stuff. Also, before we call it, The Fiend should have had a completely different moveset than Bray Wyatt to distinguish those two characters. If Bray Wyatt's character had the Sister Abigail, Fiend should have had a completely different finisher. Okay, that's it for today's episode of O Wrestling Podcast. I appreciate your time. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram, oh.wrestling, o.wrestling on Instagram. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. It's been a great 10 minutes. Let's get another 10 minutes under the belt. I'll catch you guys next time. I'm your friend.
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.